Hey now, it is 9/23, 2015. We are here with a young man here. This is an anonymous interview. We are talking about slave labor. Are we the new slaves, sir? Going to college, absorbing all of this institutional information.
It's a question I've been debating with my friends and family for a long time. The phrase that me and my friends usually come back to is wage slavery, because I don't think it's fair to equate what we live in entirely to some of the more brutal forms of slavery. But I think it's sort of like I'm more comfortable in my shackles, but at the same time, I don't feel like I feel like all my energy from the time I was born has more or less been spoken for.
Like predetermined by society.
Yeah, I mean, if you're born anywhere in America, it's pretty much an expectation. Like, you're going to work a 40-hour work week, or we have no place for you but on the street, and we're gonna make that hellish, so you have no ability to live that way, and hopefully it kills you after a little while.
I've had this thought for a long time, but those 40-hour work weeks in cubicles, like, that was a really big thing for like 30, 40 years in America, where people would work 8 hours in this cubicle, like a little bit bigger than this desk.
Yeah.
And they would work there for like 40 years and then just retire. And like, I've always just wondered, like, isn't that a form of slavery? I mean, that's even smaller than
I think
a
it
cotton
absolutely
field.
is a form. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, it's hard to talk to people because I mean, that's why I was interested in your poster out here, because I do think it's a valid argument to make that, we're still basically slaves, but I think you have to define the terms, and if you just say to people like, hey, you're a slave,
they're gonna get offended.
I mean, I think that's the thing. I think that's a big part of why it's so hard to talk about, because nobody wants to live in that world, where there's these big powers that want to suck your blood, and they've been around for fucking ever, and they're probably never going to entirely go away, and they rule the world most of the time. That's fucking scary.
I think that black people in America especially have like claimed slavery as their territory, but in modern times, like, it really affects everybody. Because if you Google, I feel like a slave, then you'll get all these results from like Discovery.com, National Geographic, like these big websites. Like Pew results surveys find that more Americans are feeling like slaves, and it's just like, wow, like, they're surveying thousands of people at a time, and it's not just limited to job occupation or skin color. It's more like mental shackles, and like the 40-hour work week, that's physical labor. Even if it's mental physical labor, it's still 40 hours.
Yeah, I mean, it's still your energy that's being sapped from you. I mean, what I think about a lot is, in the universe, there's no free energy. Even a monkey, if he wants an apple, he's got to climb a tree to get it. So I think on a certain level, there must be just a price that nature exacts for you to stay alive.
For sure, I've thought about that too. Like, man, if I'm out in the wild and there's just me, am I then a slave to nature?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question, because I don't think anybody can avoid that kind of slavery. You're always going to be a part. You can think about it as like you're a cog in a machine, or you're a cell in an organism. And I think you're always going to be part of a larger system. So the thing that scares the crap out of me about our current systems is like they don't make sense as living beings. You know, if you think about the community, it's sort of like it's keeping itself alive by like eating itself. You know, it doesn't. Like an organism has to come into balance with itself, otherwise it's not really a whole thing. You know, it's like
it's out of sync, goes out of control.
Yeah, I mean
Take your time.
Yeah, it's a really. I have a lot of ideas on these topics.
I do too. That's why I'm here.
That's why I was like, oh man, I don't know if we can have a conversation I'd like to have in 10 minutes. But,
it's good. I'll be around.
Yeah, no, I hope you will be. I mean, I don't even fucking know where to start on this topic sometimes, man.
Just go into it. Just dive. Just dive in.
So basically, I think we're in a very weird situation right now where, like humanity we're evolving. Evolution is something that takes a long time, and I think as a species, like we're going through this brief period, and I'm hoping it's a brief period of like adolescence where we're growing into learning how to responsibly use all these new powers that we've got. You know, if you think about where humans started out when we were hunter-gatherers, like we are effectively gods to the way that we used to live.
Okay.
But we still have the same programming. So like,
I like that metaphor. Like, let's say the cavemen were babies, and now in this 21st century, we're now teenagers. And continuing that metaphor, a teenager is still a god to a baby because babies, a baby.
Yeah.
Okay. And continue.
I'm really hoping this isn't like the end of the game. You know. I mean, you've heard of this idea of like the entire planet is like a single organism.
Yeah.
So if you think about that, you know, like it has a certain equilibrium, like the parts, it had a balance for a while, and now we seem to be disturbing the balance. So it's like, you know, how do you understand humans? You know, are we a virus, or is this like?
Yo, come back. We need your opinion.
You wanna join?
Sure, it depends on what you're doing, because I'm guessing that one of you are journalism students in a way.
Are you?
I'm the journalism student.
I remember your name, but it's anonymous, so you know.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Am I?
You're welcome to voice your opinion. So, my man here was just talking about how humans right now, at our evolutionary stage, we're teenagers, whereas cavemen they're like babies. Because like a teenager is a god compared to a baby, because the teenager has absolute control over a baby, and like humans now we have guns. Like caveman comes at me with a club, bang, like I'm God. Like I can run him over, I can drop him 10,000 feet from the air, and he won't even know what's going on. Like,
but it's more like on less of an individual level, like the like what I was talking about is like, you know, you consider the planet as a single organism or a single mechanism, you know, and if we've been evolving into that, you know, what's our role? What kind of organ are we? You know, are we the brains of the show? Are we a virus that's destroying the whole thing? And so I think
completely anonymous.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll share some honest opinions from my observations. A point that a lot of people aren't looking at about it, especially when it comes to human interaction with other people, is that there's uneducated and there's educated. And no, I don't mean academically, or I don't mean streetwise. And I'm sure you've heard the term of street education before. Yeah. What I mean by education is people are at an evolutionary stage, as you said, where they need to be taught to talk and associate with other people. People don't know how to do that anymore. Personally, I believe it stopped around 1960.
Yeah.
Where, you know, like, you have things like Woodstock, yes, which was like this big celebration. Everyone was getting together. There was so much peace. But there was nothing after that. And as much as I would need something like that to prove my own personal theory about it, is that I would need to see an event like Woodstock and see if people associated with each other after it. So
I agree totally. I think there were some exciting, like we're talking about wage slavery. For me, this is like there's this whole generation, post World War II. There's like this American dream, Levittown kind of thing, and then there's the generation since the '60s that are like, well, maybe this American dream doesn't work for everybody. Maybe we want something different than like wage slavery, and so it's like we had this big explosion in the 60s and everybody got really excited and a lot of people tried a lot of things, but I think most people came back because it's just going to take a while to like figure out these problems, and I think a lot of people like lost patience with it, and I just agree totally. Like how do we keep that kind of thing going,
Well, that's the question: is can humans handle that kind of thing keeping going? Like, as a journalist, I've been able to observe a lot of things. I've seen the corruption in my own industry, and I've seen that my industry is the cause of a lot of the corruption in our modern day. It all starts with the media a lot of times. And I'm completely aware that trying to get a career in this, I'm jumping right into the lion's den. I understand that. I accept that there's plenty of evils hiding behind every corner of the media. Yeah. But then, it comes to the question of necessary evils, because I go back to that educated versus uneducated thing. Observe something like all the Republican debates and what happened after it, where even someone as outspoken like Donald Trump was too afraid to answer one question. I don't know if you heard about it, but basically it was some redneck hit dude saying, we all know the president we have now is a Muslim. Mm-hmm. And even someone like Donald Trump is too afraid to respond to that.
Yeah.
Now, the person that assumes that Obama is a Muslim is what I'd call uneducated. Now, for all I know, he may very well be someone with a PhD in medical sciences, but he doesn't know how to react to what he's not used to. Mm-hmm. Nor does he know how to not care. If you don't want to like something, fine, but just admit it. If you don't like people that are a different color from you, don't try to justify it with some bullshit philosophy. Just admit it. If you don't like people that are gay, fine, don't like them, but don't hide it. If you don't like something, just admit it, and people can't even do that.
Mm-hmm. The hate has gone... It's gone subversive. It's gone sort of like racism. All right, we took down the colored only, the whites only signs, but it still exists. And even though we've taken away like outright slavery, we've moved it to parts of Asia and the Middle East, and then there's human trafficking, which affects a lot of Europeans, and this issue of slavery has become subversive. Like, it's hidden underneath the currents of everyday big news.
I think it's like the key term for like most evil in the world. It's like it's realized that it can sort of it can go just under the surface, and most of us that have the ability to do something about it, if we're just sort of kept sedated enough, like we don't work about it.
I can sort of put some insight on that too with one more other question. How do you gentlemen feel about the factor of religion when it comes to people? Are you guys Marxists, maybe not so much? Are you just complete and total atheists? Or if you're willing to answer that to me before I say anything.
I totally am. I don't know if I'm capable of answering it briefly. My spirituality is very complicated. I started off virulent atheist. In trying to talk to a friend who was raised Catholic, I realized I wasn't going to make any progress in trying to really convert people to atheism if I didn't even understand what their belief system was. Uh-huh. So I started looking at it a little bit more. I started to realize like I was just as dogmatic about my atheism as people can be about religion.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I guess for me, like I definitely have a spirituality, but I definitely think religion it attracts some really strange stuff. And so in practice, a lot of established religion, I still don't.
Well, it's like, well, I can probably
briefest way I can answer your question is that I do have a spirituality, but I've decided what I don't like about religion is the dogmatism, and whether you're a scientist or political or any topic, any place that someone says I've got the answer and it's the only one.
Well, that's the thing, and like that's the last thing I'd recommend you guys really look at too is the idea of you mentioned cavemen. Mm-hmm. The idea of tribalism has never gotten out of any society. All societies now, whatever color, race, religion, whatever, has all gotten civilized in some sort of sense. Like, America has the biggest city, our biggest city, as far as I'm aware anyway, is New York. The Arabic regions have Dubai. Look at how gigantic London is if you've ever been there. We can all say we're civilized, but tribalism has never gone away. Even if it's an entertainment, whether you're a gamer or a big music person or something.
You mean just like that we congregate in a concentration?
No, people want the separation. Like, and I'm not saying in like the necessity of slavery or inequality of race, but people want separation. Everybody, white, black, Mexican. Everybody wants to be the superior. No one wants true equality. Like the last thing I'll leave in the interview, because even though I'm fat, I'm really hungry. The last thing I'll leave with is I firmly believe when it comes to equality, no race, no religion, no gender, no nothing wants true equality, which would be complete and total evenness of economy, rights, and everything. At least that's what I feel true equality is.
Some people would say that equality is actually stagnation. Because if you're not going up or down the ladder, then you're stuck at.
I mean, I'm okay walking on a flat plane. That's what I believe from my Catholic teachings of all things. I believe that true equality is fuck the hill, fuck the downhill. Just keep walking on a straight line. But I feel that in order for that equality to have, which I feel is the true equality, you need to force it. No one wants it. No one, no race, no anything. And that's what gets people so separated and so alone, is that they can't even admit that simple fact. They want to be the best. Yes, right now there's a lot of white people in here who hold a lot of power in everything. But just because the whites hold the power right now, I mean, I'm Mexican. I've never identified, like I've never had any Latino pride or anything, like that. But I'd be willing to bet a lot of my people would want to be the top, not even and the same as everybody else.
Yeah. But it's kind of funny. I'm a white guy, and I have some awareness of like if there's any race deserving of some hatred, I think it's white folks.
Hang on, but if you were a white homosexual, then would society consider you to be black?
What do you mean? You mean like you have that same kind of status as like a minority or like a discriminated person?
Yeah.
I think so.
So I ask almost everybody this because it like messes with their brain. Like I've seen on the news like gay couples, they get beat in the street and they get lynched, and then I see black people who are treated the same way.
I mean, you're right. Like, if there's one thing, that's why I'm almost a little glad that so many people are afraid of the police right now. Do you know how many people in London, if they are openly gay, are being hunted down and like the cops are bobbies, as they call them. They can't do stuff because they're not prepared to handle violence with violence. There are people who are lynching, who are doing terrible, terrible things to open homosexual couples. They don't care what the race is.
Yeah.
But it's like in London right now, the most unsafe place to be gay is in London.
Same as Moscow, Russia.
I mean, anti-homosexuality is state-sponsored in Russia.
Yeah.
It's state-sponsored there. And it's like, that brings another thing. And that's why there's so many variables when talking about stuff. Is like, just exactly how much does race matter versus belief? Do the white people who hate black people not like black people simply because of the colors of their skin or because of the culture around black people? And who created that culture? I mean, the culture...
I honestly think all of this stuff, like all of those prejudices are like... Yeah, I mean, I think race is like... It's a small thing. I mean, honestly, I think the only reason we focus so much on race in these like hierarchies is just because, you know, in our history, like, we had a very clear visual distinction between who was a slave and who wasn't. It was based on race, and
it was based on color.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I always think about, you know, if people in the Americas had become advanced first and they had come over to Europe, you know, I think if Native Americans had muskets and Europeans didn't, they, you know, they're still humans. They probably would have done mostly the same things. So, like, I don't know if that makes sense. Like, just the hierarchy, I don't think is based on the color at all. It's just like a convenient way for the people, like whatever color the people in power are. I mean, know, they just make it an easy,
humans like
to distinguish.
Another natural human thing is they like keeping things simple.
Yeah.
Let me bring up Mexico as a case study. Mexico, the Mexican government signed NAFTA in order to turn Mexico into pretty much China. Like, when Donald Trump keeps on saying Mexico is the new China, Mexico is the new China, he's right. I mean, there are city factories in Mexico that use slave labor.
You mean the new China in terms of, like, poor labor practices?
Yeah,
or like,
poor labor practices,
corrupt government,
a draconian economy. Like, it's one of those things where, you know, again, and as a Mexican, you know, I've never lived off nationalistic pride of my own race. I respect my race, but I've never done anything because I'm Mexican, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I looked at it. It's like, no, not everyone coming from the border is a rapist or a drug dealer, like his infamous little quote.
Yeah.
But, yes, that doesn't mean that all Mexicans are innocent. No matter what your color is, not everyone's innocent.
Of course not.
Not everyone's innocent, but people don't want to think that anymore. People want to keep things simple. They want to keep things simple. If a white man kills a black man, that's racist. If a black man kills another black man, it's just another day in the hood.
Yeah.
Like, and that's a problem. That's a problem. Like, you know, I guess I could share this little personal story. When I was about 16, I went to George Washington High School, and there was a student who was a bully, very much. He was a white guy, and he was never going to go anywhere. He was very hood mentality. Sorry for using that word, but that's basically the best way to describe him. And the scariest part is when he pulled a punch dagger on me. And it was small, but then something sharp pointed at you is going to scare you.
Yeah.
So I did not think about anything. I did not think about the rules. I'm usually all about the rules. I grabbed the first thing I could in that science classroom. It was a bar stool. I don't know what a bar stool is doing.
Bar stool beats knife. I tell you that much.
Yeah, and I defended myself. And when I got arrested and he didn't, they wanted to send me up the river for 2 years, and I was 16 at the time.
Oh.
Now, see, part of that was because they never found the punch dagger until much later when I was in prison.
Yeah.
So, since they didn't find it, it didn't exist.
So they did send you to jail?
No, they didn't. Like, the case got cleared. Like, you know, even my defender said, and this is probably the most racist thing I ever heard a defender said, but this is the reason I adopted that word of what's hood in there, because my defender went and said he's not a hood rat. Yeah. He has no reason to be a hood rat. He has no reason to even be accused of a hood rat. He is just a normal kid who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Even if this kid didn't really have a dagger, that kid was a bully. I mean,
that's okay.
I was the bully victim, so the judge cleared it.
Yeah.
But you know, I still wonder, if I was white, would they have wanted to send me up the river for 2 years? Because that was my first offense. I've never been in the wrong side of the law before that. And that was the one thing that I'll always wonder about that. If I was white, would they have wanted to send me up the river?
I'm also curious, like a lot of there's so much there depending on context, you know, like like what kind of school was it? Like
George Washington High School.
I don't really know that one.
Colorado based. Oh, okay, yeah. I've heard
What part of town?
I don't even remember. It's like way up on the other side of Colfax, I think. It's been
Colfax. That's close enough.
But like Aurora.
No, it's still in the Denver area, but like on the other side.
But in the metro area downtown.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel you.
But you know, like the context of the school makes a difference. Like
they
how
had
you guys
a zero
were
tolerance.
like, even if like I think.
Well,
like you said, this kid was like he thought of himself as like a gangbanger kind of kid. So like probably it made a difference like what kind of clothing you guys were wearing. You know, like if he was like a white guy and like if there was a white guy who pulled a knife on somebody, but he was wearing like nice clothing and like you know, talked in like the accepted white person speech. You know, like. That deflects so much suspicion, you know. Whereas if you were like completely innocent, but you dressed with baggy pants and like you know, talked like the.
Okay, can you describe your dress and his dress?
Well,
I mean, I'm guessing it was the opposite, but
the best way I could describe it is, yeah, it was the opposite. You know, he very much tried to look like a stereotypical rapper. Is the best way I could put it.
Okay,
and I've never worn any logoed clothes.
Yeah.
I've never worn anything. All I worn is simple collared shirts, simple pants. Always wear a belt. I don't like sagging. And, you know, I have a very, not to sound cocky, I have a very educated dialect, and he very much tried to emulate a slang term. And again, they said they never found the knife. And another part of that big thing, to add some more context, Barstool does be knife, like you said.
Yeah.
And I fucked him up. For lack of a better term.
Oh, really?
Oh,
yeah, okay. Not just
when
like he was
you're
threatening you
scared
with a
and
knife, like you got him with the chair.
As a martial artist, you know what? My martial arts teacher taught me the rules of honorable combat is bullshit. If someone scares you, you want to go home alive with the same number of
If someone
holes
comes
you
at me with a
started
knife, I'll bite their face. Yeah.
Like you want to go like. So I just grabbed the bar stool. I made sure he ran from me.
Yeah.
And that means he trailed some blood along the hallways when he ran.
Oh.
So I screwed him up. So that was another thing they took into consideration while the knife was found, and they did believe that there was bullying and harassment going on.
Yeah.
I had no scratch. I nearly cracked into his skull.
Yeah.
So there is that context. I'll admit that.
Yeah.
But again,
I mean, do you?
because again, it was not only that, it was high school.
Yeah.
First offense. They eventually did find the knife.
Yeah.
And even after they found the knife, the prosecution still wanted to send me up for 2 years.
Yeah.
And that would have like at the time I was more than halfway through my 16th year, so that would have went into some adult jail time, as well as about a good time in juvie.
Did they want to make you into a slave? A prison slave? Did they? I mean, they have manufacturing now in prison.
I think that pretty much goes to being in an American prison.
Well, the short time I was in juvie before they released me, they, as far as I'm aware, they didn't have any labor programs. But for certain ways, they did try to discourage some people to not worry so much about mainstream education, either consider trade schools or, you know, just going right into the workforce, trying to work before you go back to school. There was that odd encouragement to think about work in that place.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I mean, I don't know why, actually. But I know that was there. I was there. I received that encouragement to not worry so much about mainstream education.
But that's, I mean, that's one of those places where it's like there's this subconscious thing, and like it's not made explicit, but like, you know, is there part of that like assumption in there of you know, these troublemakers, these probably people of the wrong race, you know, and so they're not like we're just going to assume that they're stupid, that they're laborers, that, you know, you're not going to be part of the elite anyway.
Let's talk about that then, because, you know, when I was there at that time in juvie, there was only one white dude in there.
Yeah.
And it's not illegal to mention some of the crimes that were people in there. Most of the all the other ones who were minority were in there either for gangbanger accusations, drugs, or violence.
Yeah.
The white dude was in there for molestation of a little girl.
Oh.
Yeah. That wasn't illegal to mention on this, was it?
That's okay. It's anonymous.
Okay.
You just said a white guy.
I kind of figured you would. But yeah, like he he was in there for child molestation.
Yeah.
And, again, yes, child molestation is a serious crime. You should go up in prison no matter what your race is. But, it was just so odd that all the minorities were in there for something that were, people would consider, typical minority. And the white dude was in there for something so extreme, like...
Yeah.
You gotta do some crazy shit, like James Holmes. He's not dead.
No, he isn't.
I mean, he surrendered to the police. Surrendered. That's not an option for people like Eric Gardner or Michael Brown. And, hey man, you're Gucci.
What's that?
You're Gucci.
What does that mean?
You're Gucci. Like, white privilege, male privilege. It's like, as long as you acknowledge it and you're willing to talk to people about it, like we are right now, that makes you a friend. That makes you an ally.
That's the thing.
I'm very aware of like having been in contexts where if I was not white, I would have had a lot more trouble with the cops or.
Well, right, because I think about it even now as a journalist, I always wonder about race just a little. Again, I don't have an accent. I don't even know Spanish, and not that many Spanish people in America don't know Spanish. Even here in college, sometimes when people hear my last name, which is a Mexican last name, people will talk to me in Spanish first before English.
Yeah.
And, even now as a journalist, when I'm trying to hunt stories down as an independent, someone approached me this idea of a story, which is a really interesting story of a problem going on in Mexico with young teenagers about 14 to 16 getting wrapped up in this reggaeton lifestyle and getting a little too sexy, a little too early.
Yeah. And you're a brown person, you should have some insight into it, right?
Well, no, that's what come to wait. Why come with me? To me, wouldn't you want to go to someone who maybe is taking a minor in sexual psychology or anything? I mean, my minor's in theater. My minor's in theater. Me, as someone who would be an editor, I'd want someone who'd have insight on human sexuality, on human sexual development to chase that story. So I'm like, what? I sat at home, I got home, and I started thinking about it. Why did they go to me when, one, I don't know Spanish, because I had to watch... they knew I didn't know Spanish, but the sources they gave me were all newscasts that were all in Spanish, and I had to trust YouTube's English closed captions, which aren't that good, to look at this. And then, did they come to me because they like my skill as a journalist? Because I'm pretty confident in my skills, even though I'll fuck up every now and then with some articles. But did they come to me because I'm a journalist or because I'm Mexican?
Yeah.
Because they think I care about what's going on in Mexico. And I mean, again, me, I try to keep everything on an even line. I have no stake in what's happening in Mexico. I know that sounds bad, but that's not my place to play. I want to help too. I mean, that's why I looked at your sign. I'm like, hey, I know him. I read his works of fiction.
Yeah.
And so that's why I came here. I want to help. I want to talk about these things, but there's nothing me as an individual or in a group I could do for Mexico. That's not my stage to play.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean. There's any number of issues where it's like, man, I think it's totally wrong, but at the same time, I can't. Right. I can't spend all day kicking myself about not doing something about all these problems. It's I don't really have any
that's the thing with problem solving. Let's be honest. Yes, sometimes a hug and a pat on the back is nice, but sometimes real solid solutions need to exist too.
Yeah.
And it's and again, like I said,
I talked to the Greenpeace guys there, down on the 16th. I think they've even been here a couple of times, and the last time they were like, you're going to sign the petition? It's like, yeah, I'll sign the petition, but wait, do you also have a sign-up sheet so we can go burn a factory down, or it's just it's the level of activism that I always feel is if I felt like someone was starting a revolution that could succeed, I'd drop everything in an instant and go help out. It's just I don't think I think we've reached the stage of society where I don't think we're gonna solve the problems by assassinating the Donald Trumps of the world, If I thought that there was one guy that I could just if there was a king or something, he was just being a dick and I could kill him, I'd go do it. I'd sacrifice myself for that. But it doesn't work like that, you know? You kill Donald Trump, like 5 people take his place tomorrow.
You look at history. Whenever you kill the leading monarchy, Parliament takes over.
Well, I mean, again, like I was telling too, it happens in even the small stuff, even in stuff like the entertainment. Like me, my expertise in journalism, I won't not lie, I don't know if you can tell I'm a nerd. I do the video game thing.
Yeah.
And there's a particularly infamous feminist going around in the video game industry right now. And it's like, it's one of those things where, you know, even now, like, people want to do that, like what you said, just like you said, kill the Donald Trump.
Yeah.
You know, and with this controversy going on in the entertainment world, like, kill all those dirty feminists. It's happening in movies, in music, and entertainment right now. There's this big paranoia of feminism right now going on. But it's like, okay.
I've heard a little bit about this, but I'm not I'm not much of a gamer, so...
It's a lot of that controversy is half and half bullshit, so I wouldn't recommend going in unless you have some stake in it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was basically just like there was some journalists who were saying, like, video games are gotten really sexist, and then there was, like, backlash from people who were, like...
Movies have always been sexist.
Well, yeah.
I mean, yeah, but that's a whole nother rant I could go on, and I don't know how long that phone's battery is. But to get back to the point, it's like people think it's so easy where, like, you know what, maybe those feminists in this little controversy in the entertainment industry are wrong, you know, because maybe they're saying that everyone who enjoys this is a sexist, rapey bastard.
Yeah.
And, you know, if they're just going on saying that, then they're wrong. Maybe they are wrong. But killing someone that's wrong doesn't make it right. If someone's wrong, just prove them wrong. Don't murder them, because you murder someone who you think is wrong, that makes them into a martyr. And when a martyr's made in history, you look through all history, when a martyr is made, even if they're completely and 100% freaking wrong, they're right, according to the rest of the society.
Yeah, I mean, it's more just like the level of action. You know, you're saying, like, you want to take, like, a hard, drastic action on some of these things, and it's like... It's so hard to know what to do, you know? It seems like the cards are so stacked against us, and it's...
To make you feel better, like, those signatures lead to legal action. And if you read on Wikipedia, it's always Greenpeace, it's always the Sierra Club, it's always the ACLU. They're the ones filing lawsuits.
And you're absolutely right, I get cynical and forget that, like...
Sometimes
I think
works.
we lose sight of like you were saying when we started this, you know, a lot of these, like, you know, the modern slavery, I think it's mostly in the mind, you know, and that's basically why I'm back at school right now. It's just like, okay, I'm pissed off about this stuff. I can't just sit around bitching about it. I've got to remind myself, like, no, I can do something, even if it's tiny. I owe it to myself and the world to try that, you know. So that's you're.
I mean, because again, that's why, as much as I love to see people screaming anarchy, anarchy, there's a reason anarchy doesn't work. Because, like I said, when that becomes eventually, any problem can get to that last resort to maybe that really is the only kind of solution.
Yeah.
Maybe that eventually problems get to that. But until then, sometimes the rules can work. Sometimes doing it by the way of the rules and the law can work. I am really hungry, so I hope I managed to give some good insight.
Thanks for joining.
Is there any last questions or anything?
No, I think we're good here. Thank you. Let me give you the URL. I will stop recording there.